I was thinking about how this new thing that we're dealing with in a lot of states right now, particularly my home base being in California until otherwise, maybe making a little bit of a change out here. We're hoping for it, of course. And one of the reasons why is that when I was growing up, homeless people were not normally attacking you or putting you in very vulnerable and uncomfortable situations, and they certainly weren't doing things like this. And so, what I've watched since a little bit before the pandemic and now is that we need to be careful too, right? Because we want to take care of our homeless, our widows, our orphans, all of that. And what we've grouped together here is that the homeless people, when we say that, we're talking about a variety of people. For this segment, what I'm talking about is the mental health issues that come with someone being homeless. So the mental health issues have really been the burden of the citizens since the state and the local government don't want to do anything about it. Throwing people tents and food doesn't fix the situation. And so what has happened is we've started to see, I pulled up this local news where a 6-year-old girl is attacked by a homeless man in Santa Monica. And Santa Monica is, go ahead and try to buy a home there. You can't, but you got people that they're saying, right here, just reading about this is that she doesn't know the man's motives, but believes he is homeless and was experiencing a psychotic episode at the time. So my thing is this, is how often do we have to be the brunt or the buffer for dealing with that? What percentage of police calls are them going out there to deal with this? I live in a close proximity to a organization that is deemed to deal with the homelessness in our area, and they have done nothing. So what is the issue? So the issue is not with anybody being homeless. The issue is with those people who are homeless that will not or don't want to take the help that is provided to them, assuming that there's enough resources. And so one thing I want to tell you guys is that just kind of according to statistics, 1/3 of homeless people have a serious mental illness. 1 out of 3 homeless people you see, and it's mostly schizophrenia or bipolar, are 2 of the most dangerous mental health issues to have. You have someone who's bipolar, that means you're meeting this guy and he seems happy, and then one day he just starts tripping out on you. And now you have to deal with that because he's homeless. That means he's interacting with society. Homeless people don't just go and hide somewhere and not come out. They need to go get supplies. They need to get water. They need to get food. They need to get money. They need all of these essentials. They might need to get medicine, things like that. So dealing with bipolar and especially schizophrenic people believe things that are not true. They have a absolute alternative reality. And it seems that the local government, the state government, and the federal government is forcing us to deal with the problem and to be collateral damage in the way that the system's set up. The money that's going to them is going to, there's programs for clean needles and this and that and tents. And the problem is that it's not fixing the problem. And so now we have these issues where a 6-year-old was attacked. Could you imagine if your kid was attacked just by some random person on the street and they're hitting her? What I want to look at now is that during the, pandemic, you can see April 2021, I had learned a lot about some of these, just so you know, I'm reading this right now, but I want to tell you, woman stabbing death in Riverside deemed a random attack. That was, and let me see how old she is, 64-year-old woman. That's somebody's mama probably. That's somebody's mom that's not here. That's someone who busted their butt, probably retiring. She went to go walk her dogs and was confronted and attacked by a woman and stabbed to death as she walked her dogs by a random attack. And this was the second time that she was arrested, this woman. She had already attacked somebody before. So what you're dealing with now is something that we have never dealt with before. Let me show you what she looked like. Here she is, somebody's mom, no longer here now, because we just refuse to deal with things. And a lot of it has to do with like these very sensitive minds on how to deal with this, because there's no easy answer. To be you being a parent, mama, being dada, you got to make some choices that everyone's not happy with. But this can't be the answer, that we throw money at it and people become collateral damage. And this is not the only one. I'm going to show you another example here. Let me bring up the next one for you guys. Another woman right after Christmas, right before the new year. So this woman, celebrated Christmas maybe and died 3 days later. Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry. I was reading that. I read this totally wrong. She died on Christmas Eve near Torrance. Beautiful area. Torrance, California. South Bay. It occurred on Christmas Eve around 7 a.m. Well, the victim was walking her dogs and collecting recyclables. You might be saying like, oh, that person, who were they? They're collecting recyclables. There's somebody who we live next to that would collect the recyclables every day just to make ends meet, and they had regular jobs. They wake up extra early and dig through the trash just so they could survive. Don't be making any judgments about the person and based on what they're doing. But this person was, walking her dog, collecting recyclables, and this man who was 40 came and attacked her, and she died the next day. What we're dealing with on a lot of levels is that we as society are being forced to deal with these issues, and nobody's taking accountability for that. There is billions of dollars being made, but it's being paid out to these people who run these positions, and they're not fixing the problem. So it's time to fire them. We don't need them, and they're not helping. And we need to do something where these people are going to have to be forced off the street. And if they don't want to follow protocol and kind of get with the program, we need to keep them off the streets and keep the citizens safe. I know somebody whose wife was attacked coming out of the store. I know trying to think of all the things. During the pandemic where they made everybody stay inside the house, and they weren't even the two women that I brought up. You look it up during that time, that were stabbed by homeless people, and it's usually women while they're walking their dog. My daughter, when she walked to school, always put in an uncomfortable situation by these people when she's walking by them. The security guard by where we stay has been in physical altercations just by saying, hey, you got to go. So this thing has changed. It's not the same as it was, and the answers aren't not working. I have some ideas. My ideas are kind of controversial, but I think it'd be good. What I would do is this. I would set up an area where you got to go and it'd be an area, it'd be separated by a fence with a big opening in the middle. And there'd be those people that are non-compliant and those people that are ready to kind of re-enter society and get the help they need. And that opening's open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So what you would do is, for people that are these potential violent people, would be put there with other homeless people. I know it kind of seems unfortunate. You got to put these people together. Maybe there's another way to separate violent from whatever, but we have this initial area where it's like, hey, what's wrong? Let's just figure out what's wrong first. Maybe you need some medicine, and there's a doctor on staff, and we have this medicine. We got some instant medicine that deals with the problem at hand, and then we have this maintenance medicine that deals with it long term. And what we have is hey, we can get you all ready to go, and we can put you on a trajectory, and you can walk to the other side of the fence. And that's where we start introducing you to programs and support and get you the help you need. The other side on the left, where people come, is for those people who refuse to move on. They refuse to get their help. They don't want help. They want to live their life however they want. And what we're just saying is, as a society, no. You might say that sounds crazy, but that's how it was back in the day. They didn't put up with that. You're not going to act crazy on the street corner. It's not uncommon. You know, when I'm driving my daughter to school, she said, "Oh, that girl's drugging." She kind of made that phrase up, like she's drugging. She didn't really know what it meant, how to use drugs. She's like, "Oh, that person's drugging." And I say, "Yeah." And I let her know. I said, "You know, that was somebody's baby girl. Just like you're my baby girl, that was someone's baby girl." And they either A, had an issue, or, you know, a lot of times, you know, you're dealing with the chicken or egg with mental health. Somebody asked her to do some drugs, or she tried some drugs, and that's where she's at right now. And she sees it, and she sees the people screaming and yelling. I think that in the last 5 years, I've been exposed to just people being indecent in public and showing their private parts. I was in the turning lane the other day, and the guy just peed towards traffic, like intentionally. You know, which is fine. I can look the other way as a man. I think it's disgusting and disrespectful, and it destroys our society. I also would have a huge problem with my daughter in the car. And so when I look at the homeless issue in whole, giving somebody a tent so they can go in there, come out, and do the same thing over and over again, wreak havoc on society, wreak havoc on the community, and do whatever they want, and also give just regular homeless people a bad name, right? Because let's talk about the people who are just down on their luck and don't have anywhere to go. It could be any of us. Those people are looked at differently because, hey, remember, 1 in 3 of you guys might trip on me. That's a statistic. I have to know that when I'm walking in front of my daughter, walking with my daughter, my family, when my wife's thinking about rolling down her window to hand you change. And, you know, once you roll down that window, you open yourself up to vulnerability because you're not a man. A man's hand have you ever tried to fight somebody who's on drugs that needs to get to their drug? Do you know the strength of that? So I advise my wife, I say, hey, give to the community or give when you're around me. But those days of just rolling down that window and taking that chance, nah, we're not doing that. Not when you have a 1 in 3 chance of meeting somebody who has a mental health disability that could become detrimental to your livelihood. You know, as Christians, we are always supposed to, you know, love and help those in need. And I'm all for that. And I don't think that these answers, solutions, or concerns stop us from doing that by being smart and making sure that we're doing what we need to do to help with the change in the homeless community. So my thing is, I have this, go back to my idea. We have these 2 parts, and like I said, you're on the street screaming and yelling, hey, you get approached by the police and your name gets taken down, and we say, hey, we're here to get you help, and we can put you on a track, slow track, fast track, whatever you want, the move at your pace track. You go to that place, and if you don't want a program, you still got to go there because you can't just go crazy on the street anymore. We're not happening. And so every time, what you eventually do is for the cities that want to comply and counties or the states, they'll become less attractive to people that want to do that. Because if you look at the super nice areas sometimes, there's an occasion where when that society collectively decides that they're not going to deal with that, meaning like local law enforcement, local government, things like that, they'll let it happen. Now, I am aware of, what goes on in New York where, there's this $1 million, condo in the office and a big building, and downstairs they're dealing with this. So we need to do something different at this point. And that's why I wanted to bring that up, because I speak about a lot. I haven't spoke a lot about country. This is a big issue. It's a sensitive topic. And I know that even if they came with something remotely like my idea, you'd hear people be like, oh, they're forced into a camp. It's a prison. It's this, it's that. It's not. We're here to help you. You are not allowed to be in the position that you're in. Meaning, and what that means is like you can't have chronic, habitual fits and episodes in public around vulnerable people that, can't protect themselves. You see how many women and are being affected by this. This is a big deal. It's a big problem. It's a huge sensitive topic. And I think that as long as you speak about it in the right way, I think everyone can be on the same page. And for those people who, I wish it could be like this, for those people who are like, no, let them be in the streets and this and that, I wish they could just all kind of like hang out and all those people were able to move together and then they could just do that. But I guarantee their mind would change when that saturation creates violent crime. And I can say, living here where I live, as a child, I didn't see this type of issue happening on the level it's happening. When I first got my license and was driving around the city, I didn't see it like this. Things have definitely changed. And I think that we have unfunded our mental health, and we're funding all these other countries, their wars, and we got a war at home. And we have a right to protect our country and a right to not have the police inundated with homeless encounters. Like, that's not what the police should be doing on a constant basis. And, they're going to have to do it for a while while we're cleaning it up. And if we don't clean it up, it's going to get out of control, because there's some cities that are just absolutely out of control. And it's happening in Arizona, it's in Nevada, it's in California, it's in Texas. It doesn't know political party lines. It's happening in, rich areas. It's happening in the rich parts of towns and the poor parts of towns, but definitely rampant in the poor parts of town or the kind of like the inner city areas. So we really got to figure out some solutions to what we're doing. And an interesting fact is those who are actually chronically homeless are more likely to have these mental health issues. So being homeless itself takes a toll on mental health. Interesting, right? So by buying tents and giving all these guys money at the top to offer solutions that don't get any results is only compounding and raising the percentage of people who are going to develop a serious mental health illness. And it may be that we can see that it's time to fire the coaches. The team's not running well. So it's just time to fire them. And I don't think there's nothing wrong with that. And so you let me know what you think your thoughts are and how we should deal with the homelessness that's running rampant across the country. And I mean, you can just look anywhere here, Texas. I was going to look up some more examples for you, but I think we have enough, and we see that there is a huge problem and that society is bearing those problems. Businesses are bearing those problems. We can definitely have an area where people can go and get cleaned up, get help. And if they're saying, hey, I don't want to be in here, they're like, cool, well, we can fast track you into a situation where you're no longer in this holding capacity. But the second that you go back out into the streets and you're now trespassing and doing more of what we asked you not to do, you're coming right back here. And then maybe we need to make further, if they're not going to get the help, can you force somebody? You got to ask yourself this question, like, well, they need help. Well, can you force somebody at the end of the day to take medication? And if you can, I think that's what's called a mental health facility, where you start holding people, right? Because they won't go and do the right thing. I think that's what that would look like. And it's easy to preach from a pedestal, but I've actually been in the thick of it. I've experienced it. Just last summer, there was a man he would walk around and ask people for money. And if the women didn't give it to him, or the man, he would just yell, and he was just so bent up in anger. And he was walking up to them with just had like a big old screwdriver in his back pocket. Like, I've seen so much. One of the jobs I do to make money, I saw a lot of the area that most people wouldn't see, and saw, being out in the public eye, I see a lot more than most people that go from one box to the next, where they leave their box and go to their work box. I'm driving in a box, and I'm seeing the world, and I'm seeing everything that's going on. And I know that there's a huge issue, and I really hope that we do something about it. And I hope that I'm not rambling on. I hope that I'm kind of conveying a message and offering some insight to everybody on what we need to do for our country, because it's out of control at this point. And, there's a lot of issues. There's drug issues. There's morale issues. There is, societal issues. This is the decay of society, that these people are the victims of society at times. Some of them are responsible for their situation. Some of them aren't. Should that be the question? No, the question should be, let's get them some help. The money that they're spending right now, it's worthless, and it's not helping. That's what I got to say about it. What do you guys think about it? Leave a question in the comments. God, family, country. God bless you guys. I'm so glad to have been able to talk to you about some things that have to do with the country, because it's really been on my heart